Hi, everyone. Welcome to tonight's, I want to say Facebook Live, but actually, let's go over here. I want to say Facebook Live, but Facebook wasn't working properly. So I'm actually recording this for you guys separately. So I hope that you enjoy, and please let me know in the comments if you watch it, something that you learned. That makes me so happy when people are learning and growing in their astro skills and just being more armed energetically for what they can be, do, have, or be aware of as it relates to the upcoming energies. But before I get into that, I wanted to chat about a couple quick things. So, the first is that I have launched my monthly membership group for astrology. This is called Astro Fairy. You can find this on my website at juliannefay.com/astro. And if you scroll down to about roughly like halfway through the page, you'll see here Astro Fairy. And this is now set up. There's a subscribe button here. The membership is 20 bucks a month, so it's super affordable. I've also set it up so that the first month is free. And with this membership, you get access to a weekly audio of the most important astrological aspect for that week, including a picture of a chart associated with that aspect. You also get access to a private Facebook group where I do occasional surprise Facebook Lives and extra perks in there. You also get access to a monthly journaling focus document. And the best part is that you get 20% off any private astrology readings with me. I would just want to make a note that the access to the Facebook group starts after your first month of paid membership. So it's not included with the free trial month. And honestly, this is a great way for you to learn astrology, for you to get access to week information. My lives that I do and my recordings that I do of the new and full moons, they're not always guaranteed. And also, those occur every 2 weeks. So if you really want to learn astrology on more of a weekly, daily, more regular timetable, this is really the option for you. And this is also something that will help you not only be kept up to date with the latest energies, but also learn astrology. And also you get access to 20% off any private astrology readings with me, which is a great deal because a lot of people like to receive regularly, and sometimes, budgeting or different needs can come into play. So if you're a member, you get this automatic 20% no matter what. And most of the time I actually allow my members in my membership groups. I also have a Fearlessly Fairy group, which is specific for cards. I allow my members to actually even combine sales that I run with their membership discount. So it's honestly like a super good deal. And I just wanted to do a shout out to that because that's newly launched. So check that out if you're interested. Shout out number 2 is that I've got a new Fairy Foodie feature up on my blog. And this one is my vegan portobello mushroom sandwich with dirty ketchup. And it's so amazing, so yummy. So check this out on the blog where I go over lots of goodness about everything to do with this amazing offering. And you can find that on my website under services, the Fairy Foodie, or you can just straight up go to the blog, which is juliannefay.com/blog, and it will also be there as well. Shout out number 3 is that I've recently also launched another way for people to send a thank you donation and to support me. So I've launched a Ko-fi or a coffee page, and this is at ko-fi.com/JulieAnnFay. And on this page, you can send a donation to support me to buy a cup of coffee or tea, which, trust me, I go through tea like crazy. And this is just a really good way for you to send like a small donation amount if you're not looking to necessarily buy a reading right now, but you want to support me and thank me for maybe some of the teachings or the learning that you've experienced by watching content on my channel. So sharing that as well. And I think that that's everything I have to say there. I don't know why this is doing that. So okay, so let's get into it, the astro. So here we are in February, and February 9th at 2:33 a.m., we have a full moon in Leo at 20 degrees of Leo. I'm recording this for you guys a few days before that, so my email newsletter subscribers will get probably the email newsletter around the time, this weekend, close to, Saturday night-ish. close to the time when the full moon is exact. And I'm recording this again when the moon is technically still in Cancer and we're approaching this full moon so that people can get a good heads up. Sometimes it works out that way, sometimes it doesn't. It depends on where kind of the new full moon lands in the calendar. But let's get into this. So this is a full moon in Leo, and we have the chart here for this. So once again, this is February 9th, 2020 at 2:33 a.m. and this is at 20 degrees of Leo. So we can see that here at 20 degrees of Leo. And a full moon is when the sun opposes the moon, right? A new moon is when the sun and the moon are together. So we have this beautiful full moon in Leo. You know, a Leo moon, somebody that's born with a Leo moon, or even if you're just under like a Leo moon transit or your progressed moon is in Leo, this is like a very creative, artistic placement for the moon. You know, people that are moon Leos tend to often become musicians or artists, singers, songwriters. They have a creative, artistic bent to them, and it could vary how that's expressed. Maybe they make jewelry, or maybe they write songs or play music, or they're into, you know, painting or the arts or drama. But there is this artistic quality to them, this very creative artistic quality, because Leo is really about passion and creativity. You know, it's associated with the sun, and that's also associated with like our inner child and our sense of play and joy. So a moon in Leo is a very happy moon, you know. It's a nice placement for the moon, but it's important for people that are moon Leo to be able to have an outlet for their artistic expression. That's really important. Moon Leo people that don't have that are probably hurting. So, you know, this particular full moon is about understanding how to balance our need for our own leadership, because Leo is also associated with leadership, our need for our own leadership, our own kind of stamp on the world, our own creative endeavors, our own passions, with being able to understand how that fits into the groups, the communities, and the society as a whole that we belong to, right? So this is about understanding, you know, what is it that I'm passionate about? What is it that I want to create? For example, my midheaven is in Leo. So, you know, I'm really, really passionate about astrology. And I'm also really passionate about the archangels and spirituality and crystals and fairies and oracle cards, right? So that's all part of my business. It's part of, you know, a way that I express myself creatively. And my business also serves as a way for me to, you know, articulate things and design things. So that's kind of the Leo part of me. But then the Aquarius part of me, right, which is on the opposite side on my IC, that is the part of me that relates to like my inner world, you know. So that's how this manifests in my home life, my private life. So that's how this manifests in my chart, you know. So in your chart, you want to look at what planets, if any, do you have an Aquarius or Leo? What houses is, you know, what houses do you have Leo and Aquarius within? That's very important as well. And you want to really just be examining energetically with this full moon, understanding your creativity, your passions, and how that fits into kind of the people and the places you need to kind of be in to help foster and grow them, right? Because it's difficult when we're kind of an island of creativity. You know, it's like one thing to have the creativity, that's important. We also need sometimes the support of other people to get the word out, of the message out. And Aquarius is all about that. Aquarius is about those meetup groups, you know, the friendships, the circles, the connection to others, those collaborations, that, you know, kind of holding hands support. Not necessarily, not really on a romantic level, but this is more on like a friendship, a community, a networking level. So, you know, a beautiful kind of energy here if you can understand how to balance those two needs and kind of work that, you know, into place. And let's dig a little deeper into some of these aspects. So for one, the moon will be trining over to Mars in late Sagittarius. This is a harmonious aspect, meaning that this is fire and fire. So these guys are communicating well, you know. This means that you're going to have that strength, that drive, and that willpower. I'm going to make a caveat to that in a second, but generally you're going to have that strength, that drive, and that willpower to take action on these creative passions and these things that are like igniting your fire, you know. Now, what's a little bit of a killjoy is that Venus will have moved into Aries by this time, and it will be conjuncting Chiron. So this is a little bit of a tricky aspect, kind of a gnarly one, because first of all, Venus doesn't do very well in Aries. It's impatient here. It can be a little bit aggressive or hostile. But mostly it can be very driven, because this is like a Mars Venus conjunction built in. But it's very impatient. And when it comes to love and when it comes to things relating to all things Venus, like beauty, aesthetics, balance, style, um, also our relationship with money, our relationship with all different types of people, it's really important to have patience, right? Like if you approach a new partnership or a new like financial contract with a lot of hostility and patience, that's going to turn people away from wanting to kind of make a contract with you or commit to you, right? So Venus would much, much prefer to be in Libra, where it has that patience and that softer energy to be able to hold the space to like make a best decision for all parties involved. Or Venus also likes being in Taurus, because Taurus is about stability and patience. So Venus knows when it's in Taurus, it's going to have the stability and the patience to make the right decisions, kind of work the process through. So you want to watch for being like overly impulsive or impatient with this Venus in Aries. Now, again, you want to know your own chart, because if you're like a really strong Capricorn, you're actually going to be dealing with like a lot of squares to, this Venus and Aries energy. You're not going to like it. And it might actually be almost like aggravating or like agitating you to actually maybe help you take a little bit more action than you have. However, if you are a fire sign in particular, like an Aries or somebody who's got, strong Aries in their chart, um, you need to be kind of more careful, because there could be like an angsty kind of like hostile, like impatient energy here. The really important thing about this is this Venus conjunct Chiron. So Chiron represents this aspect of ourselves that feels wounded, but it's kind of a paradox, because we feel wounded, but interestingly, most of the time the wound is not as bad as we think. It's just something that we kind of hold in our heart and our mind as like a vulnerability and a weakness and a shortcoming. But actually, when you like ask people in the outside world or like engage other people in this awareness of it, they almost see this as like your secret weapon or like your secret power or your strength in some type of way. Because the deal with Chiron is that he was a wounded healer. That's like the traditional phrase you'll hear in astrology with Chiron. So yes, he did have wounds, and he did go about trying to find a way to heal his wound, but he was also a fantastic teacher and healer. He helped a lot of people. So Chiron also represents this almost like service-oriented ability to help and heal people. So because we have Venus conjunct Chiron, this can have the potential for like very healing relationships coming into our life that might kind of come in like real hot and heavy, because it is Aries, and that's like, you know, um, kind of like act first. I had to say it the opposite way. It's act first, think later, right? It's the opposite of kind of how it would be. They might come in kind of hot and heavy, but yeah, there's a potential here for some people to kind of come in, and maybe there's a little bit of like tension with them, but it actually heals you or teaches you something in some type of way. So there's a lot of energy here. So pay attention to those things like the Venus in Aries, paying attention to watch for impatience or impulsivity, and Venus Chiron, just reminding yourself that like maybe it's not as bad as you think. Maybe there's a lesson in this, or maybe it's you're telling yourself that it's, this can also be telling yourself that, I mean, Chiron's going to be transiting in Aries for a while, so we've been under this already. It's not like new that Chiron's in Aries, but it's just going to be felt a bit more because Venus will be there with it. But this could also be like feeling like you don't look good, that you're physically not fit, to show up in these relationships, or like concern about like your physical fitness or the way you present yourself, because Aries is also about the physical body. This can also be like a woundedness on your divine masculine part of yourself. So feeling like you don't have the stamina or the strength or like the courage or the perseverance to keep going, or to actually approach it to begin with. So this Venus Chiron is a little bit tricky with that, because it's like, oh, I don't know if I have enough energy for that. But then you go and it's actually like you have a really good time. It could be that kind of thing too. Now, let's see, what else did I want to chat about? So we have Mercury and Pisces, and we will be approaching a Mercury retrograde soon in the upcoming weeks. This Mercury retrograde will be in Pisces, and then it'll actually retrograde back into Aquarius and then go back into Pisces. Mercury is not very strong in Pisces because it would much prefer to be in Virgo or Gemini, which have the ability to be really precise and exacting about finding the information, organizing it, curating it, things like that. Gemini is not so much interested in organizing it as Virgo would be, but Gemini and Virgo share that curiosity to like explore and get to the nature of the actual facts. Mercury in Pisces can get really lost because Pisces is actually ruled by Neptune, which Neptune's in Pisces right now, where it wants to be very dreamy. It's about the subconscious, you know. And Mercury in Pisces is a time in which we're exploring things about kind of like that dreamy subconscious state, you know, which is good when we're asleep and good when we're in meditation and spiritual work, but not always great when we're trying to like do our jobs or do things that require like really precise logical thinking, you know. And the thing too here is that Pisces is very watery energy. It's literally associated with the oceans. Neptune is like the ruler of the sea. It's same as Poseidon. So, you know, the analogy that I tell my clients is that if we were to take a piece of paper and if I was to give it to you like right here and now, you know, and have you read that piece of paper in like the air and the physical earth, you probably would have a pretty good job of being able to read it. But if we took that piece of paper and I went and put it in the middle of the ocean, now that's like a whole different story, right? You got to send like a team of scuba divers down to go get it, and who knows where it is. That's like Neptune, you know. It's expansive, it's intangible, it's not precise, it's not exact. So this can mean that sometimes the information is a little bit tricky, a little wonky. It can almost feel like a Mercury retrograde before it is a Mercury retrograde. I notice with myself, I'm like a super duper Virgo, so I'm very precise about a lot of things. And even myself, I've been noticing little typos coming up with things like that because it's just very easy to do, you know, with Mercury and Pisces. So, you know, want to pay attention to things like that, almost like Mercury retrograde feels when it's not even Mercury retrograde yet. And then I thought that this was really interesting because I don't know when this aspect started. I haven't been watching this aspect like super closely, but I did notice that we're getting into a space in which Uranus in early Taurus is beginning to come up as a square to Pluto and Saturn because Pluto and Saturn have moved pretty far along into Capricorn. And the reason for this is because it looks weird, right? Because Uranus is an Earth and Capricorn's an Earth. So when you're learning the basics of astrology, you understand like, okay, it's a trine if it's the same element, right? So this is Earth and Earth. Why is it not a trine? But this is where you have to pay attention to the degrees, which is like another variable of astrology. So because these are moving deeper into Capricorn, almost to Aquarius, in truth, Pluto has a long way to go before it gets to Aquarius because it moves very slowly. Saturn will actually get into Aquarius this year, but then it will retrograde back into Capricorn, and then it'll be permanently in Aquarius as of December 2020, really moving into 2021. But these are getting close enough to Aquarius that they can now come up as a square to this Uranus and Taurus. So this is something that we're going to be paying close attention to, especially in astrology, because Pluto and Saturn going over to Uranus, although Uranus will continue moving. So we'll kind of have to monitor this, but it's certainly something interesting, you know, because Pluto, Saturn, and Uranus are all big heavyweights in astrology. They affect things on a broader scale. So Uranus is about inventions, technology, society. Saturn is about the physical earth, work. Pluto is about transformation, power, kind of like the collective subconscious, you know. So there's a lot of changes afoot here, for sure. But like I said, this is a powerful aspect that will be continuing to kind of open up. So I'm not going to go too much into that more than I just have. But what else do I want to say here? You know, we also have Mars as it continues to move closer to Capricorn. It's starting to get to a place where it is actually squaring that early Venus in Aries, but again, it's not quite there yet. You know, this chart is a really weird chart, to be honest. Sometimes when I do the new full moon charts, it's like so clear what's going on. I remember the one we had in Scorpio several months ago in the fall was so clear what it was about. And sometimes if you pull up even a mutable energy chart, like a Virgo, Pisces, Gemini one, even that, although it's mutable, there's still a clear message. And what's interesting about this one is that it's kind of got a lot of things that are forming, but they're like missing the mark in some type of way. Like, for example, this, you know, Pluto Saturn square Uranus, it's not even really strong enough to be a square yet, but yet it's still there. You know, this Mars square Venus, it's like, again, Mars is not even in Capricorn yet. And by the time Mars gets to Capricorn, Venus will be further along, but it's still square, you know? So there's some interesting things here. And I almost feel like this is part of the energy of this particular full moon, is this sense of like change approaching, and the sense of like big shifts starting to happen here, you know, or like Mars square Venus can also be like a lot of tension, you know? So there's a lot of tension here, but it's like the story is still unraveling. You don't quite have all the pieces yet. And Aquarius can be like that too, because it's a real visionary, you know. And then with Mercury and Pisces, this is about understanding like your connection with source, understanding your spirituality, and being able to believe, you know, in your dreams. So there's this kind of like weird elusive quality going on to this full moon about having to kind of trust and keep going and have faith, even though you don't quite understand all the pieces and how everything's fitting together. And I know that that's like not the easiest medicine to swallow, you know, for this full moon, but it's really a matter of continuing to work what is clear, this full moon in Leo, which is the sun in Aquarius, and the moon in Leo, which is saying work your creativities, work your passions, work the emotional attachments, because the moon is also emotional attachments. Work the attachment you have to your artistry, to the things that just light you up, that fill your inner child with joy, you know, that bring you so much happiness. And try and do that a little bit each day. Try and do that, you know, especially for this new 2-week cycle that we'll be entering, because anytime we have a new or full moon, it triggers a new 2-week cycle that we're under. Work that passion, work that creativity, work that artistry, work those things that bring you joy. And then also, don't neglect the fact that sometimes you need to connect to others and not necessarily isolate. It's really easy to be kind of that like starving artist, you know, that person that's like creating in isolation. But the truth is that even people who are really, really talented at what they do, they still need a platform. They still need help from other people to get the word out and understand who they are and what they offer, right? So like I'm thinking in particular of like Justin Bieber's coming to mind, right? Like he was singing like on the streets in, I think it was Canada, and it was through YouTube, right? So it was through technology and the use of people that he was able to amass his following, and that is very Aquarian, right? So this is a good time for you to be not neglecting your friendships and the people that you can network with, or like looking at collaborations or celebrating kind of like this community aspect of things. This is a good time to make sure that you're balancing both of those needs. And that's really the main medicine that, you know, we want to pay attention to for this full moon. There will be a lot more coming up in February. Excuse me, let me take a sip of my tea. There will be a lot more coming up in February with Mercury going retrograde and Mars moving into Capricorn, but we're not there yet, you know. So I'm going to end this here, and I want to do a shout out again to that link, which I will put in the description of this video. If you'd like to treat me to a cup of coffee or tea, I would so very much appreciate it. It really, really helps me out. And feel free to check out my website, juliannefay.com, and check out that Astro Fairy membership, where you can get lots of amazing perks and many, many things. And then, of course, you're welcome to explore on my blog and see what you're interested in viewing. Feel free to share those blog links with others. And in the spirit, actually, of, well, that's good. I was worried about one thing and I see it there. in the spirit of also like community and all of that, I am in a position where I'm looking for more platforms for me to share my blog content on. So this can be apps, this can be spiritual magazines, print or online. This can be just another blog. You know, if you're watching this and you're a spiritual entrepreneur and you feel like you're looking for more content for your blog or content writers for your business, or even if you're not a spiritual entrepreneur, but you know a particular app or somewhere, someplace that would be great for me to check out, I'd love to learn about that. So you're welcome to email me at julieannfaye, JULIEANNFAE @gmail.com, and shoot me an email. Let me know what that is, and I'd love to hear about it so I can check it out. So I'm sending you all so much love and light. Have a wonderful full moon, and I look forward to talking to you all again soon.